going on, everyone? This is Alex Quin, and you're listening to the Hustle Inspires Hustle podcast. Today, I'm joined by Jonathan Rose of Genesis Gold Group. What's up, man?
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for jumping on. I appreciate you. You are in a world that I'm very passionate about. Don't know much about it. I'm getting into it right now, but I'm eager to learn. I'm eager to know more. I'm eager to know how it could help me. Gold has been something that's been around forever. And a lot of people have alternate investments, just stocks, crypto, real estate. A lot of people are into gold, but also a lot of people are not really understanding the value that gold brings to the table. So I'm very excited to have you here today to learn about you, to learn about your track record, and to learn about your business, man. So go ahead and break it down for us, man. Where does your passion for this industry come from?
It's a great question, actually. So, as you can tell from my funny accent, I'm from London, England, and I grew up over in Southeast London, and I actually worked in the financial markets at a age of, I think, 18, actually started financial markets, and I worked for Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, and I worked my way up to the London Metal Exchange. So if you've ever seen the stock exchange in New York with people screaming and shouting and wearing colored jackets, that's the equivalent in London for the London Metal Exchange. And that was a lot of fun, and that kind of got me my introduction into financial assets. Now, that was futures contracts being traded on, billions of dollars daily through these, big American banks and corporations. But that was my first entrance into metals, so to speak. So that was base metals, such as aluminum, zinc, copper, tin. It was like the base metals market. And then the other section of that market was precious metals. So that would be what you're familiar with today, gold and silver, etc. And even though I was involved in trading base metals, I always gravitated towards precious metals. I think particularly because growing up as a child, my dad had lots of these gold coins, and they were like gold sovereigns. And his father used to have gold sovereigns. They passed them down to me. So I always had an attraction with gold. And I'm not sure if you've ever held a gold coin before, but you put a gold coin or a bar in somebody's hands, and they're like, their eyes go big, and they're like, wow, and at first couple reactions are, wow, this is heavy. That's every time, because it's so dense, gold. So that's why it carries its weight. And then people realize, wow, this is worth something, unless, compared to paper that gets mass printed and it doesn't kind of have the same bite, the dollar, the value as it does in the past. So, kind of growing up in the financial markets, I kind of gravitated towards precious metals. One of the top traders in UK, I just happened to kind of be under his wing as he kind of was trading in London, and he knew my appetite for precious metals, and he always used to say to me, and it stuck with me, and it just kind of cemented my own ideology on why you should own precious metals. And he used to say to me, Jonathan, if you're ever going to invest in precious metals, forget all this futures nonsense. The only way to invest in gold is to hold on to it, the tangible asset. And that really resonated with me. And I really kind of took that with me throughout my whole career. So after leaving the London Metal Exchange and coming to the US in 1997, I carried on in the financial markets and segueing into something I was more passionate about and something I believed in, and that was precious metals. And then from there, I was actually hired by banks like HSBC and AIG, and I went over to Southeast Asia, and I was actually advising their financial advisors on how to sell gold to the masses. Because in Asia, in the late 90s, when people purchased gold, believe it or not, they would buy gold jewelry. They wouldn't be buying gold coins and bars, etc. So it was really an opportunity to enjoy Southeast Asia, but also educate financial advisors for AIG and help HSBC get involved in metals transactions, physical transactions for their clientele. Because as the years rolled by, people realized that gold is a safe haven, and it's a flight to safety and security. So if we look throughout history and we look at any singular events, whether it was the dot-com crash, Y2K even, housing market, 9/11, throughout these singular events, social geopolitical events, when there's been a catastrophe in the market, people gravitate towards the yellow metal as a hedge or as a safe haven. So, over the years, people realized that, having a balanced portfolio that does include gold and silver is an integral part of a balanced portfolio. So being in the industry for, over 25 years now, particularly gold and silver, I've done a lot of financial literacy on teaching people the importance of not planning for Saturday night, so to speak, but planning for the future. And that does include stocks and bonds and, real estate and some gold. So I never tell people put everything into gold, but it's definitely an important asset that you should be looking at holding. Put it away in a safety deposit box. You can even put it in an IRA or 401k. Now, fast forward to today, myself talking to you, I'm one of the owners of Genesis Gold Group, and that's exactly what we do. We help people protect their retirement accounts with gold and silver. So if they're working or if they're retired, they have 401ks, retirement plans. They're looking at what's happening in the market today, which we'll obviously talk about, and they're looking at, well, how do I safeguard my 401k, my pension that I've been working so hard for the past 20 to 30 years? If I feel that the market's going to collapse or the dollar's going to, go further down in value or whatever the next big event's going to be, how do I safeguard that? So people are now really getting an education and having that light bulb moment and realizing, well, wait a minute, I can protect my retirement dollars by just moving it sideways and parking it in precious metals. And that's exactly what we offer today.
Okay, so that's the mission and vision, making sure that people are aligned for their retirement, that make sure that their investments are properly aligned to their best interest into the social geopolitical climate.
Correct.
I love that. So why don't you break down the gold IRA for me?
A gold IRA. So let's say someone's working, they may have a 401k with their company that they contribute to every month, or maybe you don't have a 401k and you just have what we call a traditional IRA. Traditional IRA, maybe you're with Charles Schwab or Fidelity or Edward Jones, and you're contributing to this IRA on a yearly basis. And hopefully it's been growing. Now, the past couple of years, a lot of these people have been taking beatings in their retirement accounts for various reasons, and you could think of just bank failures, right? Back in April, we saw SVB, First Republic, go out of business, JP Morgan buying them. I actually had funds in one of those banks that didn't go under, but it just goes to show you how helpless you can feel when, is my funds, are they going to be there? Are they going to be safe? So again, something we're looking at very closely right now is commercial defaults that are happening. And the Moody's, the credit bureau, that really rates how safe these banks are, they've just downgraded another 7 major banks. So I think the next stress test over here the next few months is going to be from defaults, because a lot of these banks carry large bank credit notes with these bad loans, so to speak. So when banks collapse, that creates fear, right? Fear creates panic, and that's when sell-offs start to happen. Yeah. So if you have an IRA, a traditional IRA, and it's tied to the market, and we see one of these events or multiple events, it's funny because top economists right now refer this economy to the everything bubble, because it's not just one singular event that can knock us out of kind of us moving forward as a country. It's a multitude of events, and we'll kind of go over that a little bit. So these people that have these IRAs, they want to roll it over into precious metals. How does that work? Well, they call us here at Genesis Gold Group. We kind of listen to them a little bit because we need to understand their needs, why they're trying to do this, how long they want to hold on to precious metals for. We have a very high level team of what we call IRA processors. These IRA processors help our clients roll over their initial IRA to a gold-backed IRA. The correct terminology for it is a self-directed IRA. A self-directed IRA basically means you own entitlement to your asset. So rather than being invested in stocks or bonds, you can go from that type of investment sideways into a self-directed IRA where now you have the control. So you've probably come across people over the years that have IRAs that may have real estate in there, right? Or mineral rights, oil rights, cryptocurrencies, precious metals, because you're self-directing the funds. So one of those self-directions that's allowed by the IRS is precious metals. So people roll over their money, they keep it tax-free. They then need a gold broker such as us, Genesis, to kind of help decide what's going to be in their portfolio. They also have a new custodian. So we work with some of the top custodians across here in the US who provide our clients with a login portal so they can see their balances. And then the metals are stored at a licensed depository backed by the major exchanges and also insured by Lloyd's of London for $1 billion. So the metals have to be kept safe somewhere. If you pull metals out of the depository, that's considered a distribution. So that's a taxable event, but it's your metals. You can do so if you please. A lot of our clients are retired or they're retiring. So they're thinking about things like RMDs, required mandatory distributions. So we help clients take possession of these metals. And I just want to make something perfectly clear here. This is physical metals that are held in a licensed depository that you own. So not ETFs, electronically traded funds, not a gold stock. Again, that's just paper, and there's more variables involved when you invest in gold ETF. So people say to me, well, why do I want to own the metal when I could buy a gold ETF? True, you can buy a gold ETF that trades to the price of gold, but it's not actual gold. If the market still tanks, it's still derived to the stocks. So electronically traded funds you can't hold in your hand. It's just a piece of paper. Gold mining stocks, again, you're not really investing in gold. You're investing in a management team, first and foremost. Who's the CEO? Who's the board of directors? Are they mining any gold? Are they profitable as a company? So there's definitely more variables involved there. So the safest way, the only way, in my opinion, to invest if it's precious metals is to physically hold on to it. And that's why you can physically hold on to it through an IRA, which is all approved by the IRS. It keeps it tax deferred. You can take distributions whenever you want. And that, in my opinion, is the safest way to protect from volatility if you're looking to safeguard those retirement dollars in an IRA.
Beautiful. Okay, so for our newbie listeners who may not be as well versed in this type of thing, we're talking about gold IRA. Can we define IRA in general? What is an IRA? Why do people look for IRAs? And then dive in a little bit more into the gold side.
Yeah, well, IRA is simply an individual retirement account. So when people are, planning for their future and they're looking to retire, they're contributing dollars. It could be tax deferred dollars. That's called a Roth IRA, or it could be a traditional IRA. And this is very common, obviously, across America, because when people hit the workforce and they start saving and they start thinking about their future, people want to retire with a nest egg. That nest egg historically has been tied to the stock market, which has done very well. But, during our lifetimes, there's definitely going to be some, blips on the radar. So, if you're young and you have a precious metals IRA, it can make a lot of sense. But if you're also invested in equities, that can make a lot of sense for you too. Because if you're invested in equities and there's a stock market crash, well, guess what? You're young enough to wait for the stock market to come back up and just, have a hold mentality. Our clients who have IRAs, I would say they're 55 plus. And guess what? They can't afford for the stock market to crash because they don't want to wait another 10 years for their assets to kind of come back to where they were
Level
before.
out.
Yeah. So, it's really, if you're younger, it's good to have precious metals in there as a hedge. If you're older and getting ready to retire, people's mentality as well, we've done pretty well in life. We've got this nest egg now. Let's secure it and protect it because we don't like what's coming towards us on the horizon.
Understood. So for somebody that has no idea about this type of thing, and they say, hey, listen, Jonathan, like I have all this cash parked. I've been working, let's say maybe it's a 35-year-old. I've been working these many years. I have a little bit of stocks. I have a little bit of crypto. Why would I lock my money away in an IRA?
Yeah, it's a good question.
One of them is the tax deferral, but what are some of the other benefits that somebody would want to lock their money away for some time?
Yeah, I think you really have to step back and look at the bigger picture. And if you think that the economy is rosy and everything moving forward is hunky-dory, as we say, then gold wouldn't be for you. because it's essentially an asset that isn't paying you a dividend, right? It looks pretty in your safe. If you open up your safe and you've got, some stacks of cash and stacks of gold, it's something very pretty to look at. But what's it actually doing for you? Well, what it's actually doing is it's preserving your purchasing power. So if we put $50,000 in cash in a safe, and next to it we put $50,000 worth of gold, and then we come back to that safe in 5 years, well, the $50,000 still counts 50,000, but chances are with inflation being so high, right, it's actually buying you less consumer goods in 5 years' time than it would do today. That's just a fact, because inflation's so high. That's why they're putting up interest rates to try and combat inflation, and that's a slippery slope by itself. So in terms of preserving the value of your dollar, you have to park it somewhere. You're not going to park it under under your mattress, or put it in the attic, right? You're going to park it somewhere. Banks, how safe is the money in the banks? Well, you put it in a CD, or the interest that you're getting from your banks, pretty terrible, because even that's not keeping pace with inflation, right? So obviously you're going to have your more aggressive strategy where you're going to keep it tied to the market. But, when we look at the market and why people are worried, why are they worried? Well, like I mentioned earlier, the bank failures recently happened. What's next? And obviously, we don't have a crystal ball per se, right? But we have a pretty good roadmap, and we know what that roadmap looks like. And when you have people like Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan saying, brace yourself for an economic hurricane, that's the last thing you want to hear with your investments, because, the only people that say brace yourself is, if a plane's going down, right? And the pilot comes on, brace, brace, brace. So you never want to hear those words tied to your financial assets. And when we look at inflation, eroding the purchasing power of the dollar. So just to make it very simple to everyone, let's say hypothetically a candy bar costs $1. Next year that candy bar could cost like $1.13. Right? But our paychecks aren't going up, but the price of consumer goods, fuel, gas, everything that we're purchasing is becoming more expensive.
So
So
your
it's
money buys you less, even though you have the same money.
buying you less every
Yeah.
single year. It's very insidious. It's like a caterpillar on a leaf taking a small little bite, and it's eroding everything. And then, we're looking at geopolitical events, Russia, Ukraine, is that going to flare up? Is that going to escalate? What's going to be the next, international conflict? Then we have things called BRICS nations. BRICS nations basically is Brazil, Russia, India, China. Biden left a huge vacuum in the Middle East, and we got pushed out to the side. These other countries have all banded together. They want to create their own currency, and guess what? They also want to back it up by gold.
By gold, right? Yeah.
Yeah, come up with their own. So people ask, well, when's this happening? Well, there was a conference that just happened last month, I believe, in Johannesburg. And people really believe that, well, they're going to announce this new currency backed by gold. It hasn't happened yet. Now, will it happen? I personally believe so. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. So, the dollar is losing favor around the world. Even now when oil is traded, it's settled in dollars, it's settled in US dollars. Well, not anymore. People are gravitating and moving away from the US dollars as a world reserve currency. The housing market, Las Vegas, for example, they're going to have the highest foreclosure rate out of any state. The housing market is teeter-tottering on a bit of a financial collapse, people can argue. With interest rates being so high, it's just Xing out these first-time home buyers, or even people I know who run these hedge funds and have these, multi-million-dollar apartment complexes tied to variable rate interest rates.
Oh
which
my
means
goodness.
say no more.
Oh my
So
God.
they're being absolutely creamed, and so we have all these problems. These problems I'm referring to, and these are just some of them we're talking about, but top economists refer this to the everything bubble. I talked about singular events that happened over the years in history. Well, the everything bubble composes a much bigger threat, because there's so many things that could go wrong. What's going to be the first domino to fall? And when people understand that and they realize that, oh boy, things don't look good for the US dollar. Things don't look good for the housing market. Things don't look good, and people are saying the R word, recession, and some people even shouting out depression.
Depression, yeah.
We keep printing money, and money printing has been an issue ever since we came off the gold standard. The US dollar used to be backed by physical gold.
Not anymore. Some people still think it is, but it's not. It's just paper.
In God we trust. That's the only thing it's backed by. So we came off the
Wow.
gold standard in 71 under Nixon, and that's when free trade happened. So the government started printing money, printing. We're addicted, Alex, to printing money right now. We can't help ourselves. Debt does matter. You can't keep spending money and not expect any ramifications from this. So if you had a credit card and you kept spending, but then you didn't pay your bills, well, what happens to you personally? Well, you get bad credit, right? You can't apply for loans. You can't get housing. Your credit score is everything. Well, it's the same here with the US dollar. Our credit score here is everything. So that's why when you hear Moody's, which are the credit bureau rating, the kind of keep the balances in checks on how safe assets are, and they're downgrading all these financial institutions and the US dollar worth. These are red flags. These are big red flags to investors. And that's why you have people like Michael Burry. He's a famed Wall Street trader. They made that movie about him, The Big
The Big
Short.
Short. Yep.
Great movie. If you've never watched it, I recommend everyone to watch that. He just did a $2 billion bet that the S&P 500 is going to be going, right? So you have other top Swiss economists, Dr. Nouriel Roubini, they called him Dr. Doom, for also successfully calculating the housing collapse back in 08. So all of these people who are, much, much smarter than us, and governments go to them for advice, they're already ringing the alarm bells. They're already saying that, look, this is going to be a bumpy landing. So knowing this, you have decisions to make. You either keep all your money in the market and you live with that, and if it collapses and you're young enough, you wait for it to come back. That's fine. People have done that in the past. But other people that have already been through this and they've got their balances back to where they are, they say, aha, this looks like a familiar pattern to me. And this familiar pattern to me means that this time, hindsight's 2020, I should actually do something to prepare for this. If we know that the flood banks are going to burst, let's make sure we have the flood insurance, right? So by having precious metals, assets like gold and silver, that's the hedge that people are going to get from all this market volatility and uncertainty. If we're on a financial collapse and people are looking to safeguard what they have, gold and silver does what it says on the tin, protects against downturn, protects against inflation, protects. So essentially, what gold and silver is also is an insurance policy. And that's probably also the best ways people should look at this.
Jonathan, it's really crazy, man, because I'm no expert in the field, but I understand the value. That's why I'm very excited to have you on the podcast today, and for me to learn, also for my audience to learn, right? I'm a newbie to this in some way. But it's really shocking. Like, I try to have these conversations with the limited knowledge that I have with members of family, with people that I know, with even people in business. And you'd be surprised how many people have no idea how this works, don't see the value in it. Recently, somebody told me, "What are you going to do with all that gold? What are you going to buy with it?" It's like, you don't get it. And I also wonder why in our communities are we not educated more about this when it's so important, when so much of our safety and our future relies on things like gold, that we don't even think about it. And you're mentioning all of these global events that are happening around us and even within our country, and everybody's distracted by all these other things in the media that probably have no, like, they have no meaning to our future. It's just things to keep us busy and keep us talking. But the things that we should be talking about, like the things you are talking about, nobody talks about them. Nobody thinks they're important. Nobody thinks it's cool. Everybody just thinks everything is going to be okay. Everything's ponies and fairies and unicorns. But this is a very serious matter.
Yeah,
Why,
absolutely.
why do you think that we've been conditioned to just not look at these things? I mean, you're in it. You're in this world, so you're constantly talking about it. It's something big for you. You run a business around it, and you help people around it. But people that are outside, looking outside in, what do you think? Why do you think things are this way?
You said a word there that resonates with me: conditioned, right? So we're conditioned to the pain. there's so much pain out there in the news to do with financial assets that we've grown a thick skin and we're like resilient to it. Oh, the market dropped 1,000 points today. Oh, never mind. Oh, the US dollar's lost a third of its value. Oh, that's fine. Banking systems are going to be changing to central bank digital currencies, which we're talking about. Oh, no big issue. So we've just kind of been conditioned to the pain that's in the market that we get numb to it. Now, again, younger people, when they look at gold, it's maybe not as sexy as like Bitcoin, right? And in fact, a few years ago when Bitcoin really came to fame, gold was touted as, oh, you don't want gold, you want cryptocurrencies. And then anything not named Bitcoin or Ethereum, for the most part, lost, 80% plus of their values, right? And then all of a sudden people came back and said, oh, you know what, gold is good. Gold is good. We should be owning gold, something tangible, something that just can't poof and evaporate.
After the FTX rug pull, everybody wanted to look at gold again. Yeah, it happened. I mean, it happened with Voyager. It happened with FTX. Like you have to have a diverse portfolio, and you have to understand the risk. And that's why I love what you do. It's stored in the safe. It's stored somewhere. It's physical. Like it's not fairies. It's not. It's a woozy. It's a wazi. Like it's a Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah. It's actual tangible stuff that you could hold on to.
Yeah, it's not fugazi, right? That's what we say.
Fugazi.
So, something like, and probably great advice for your listeners here. Yes, there's lots of markets out there that are exciting and emerging, but something I look at that people kind of, for some reason, forget about, and that's something called a track record. Anytime you invest, you've really got to look at a track record. Not that, future results are indicative of future earnings, etc., but it will kind of give you a story. It will kind of give you a little bit more of a roadmap. So when you look at, precious metals as a whole, over the past 4 or 5 years, gold and silver have risen over 50%.
Especially in the last year.
Yeah,
they did good. Yeah,
those are pretty solid returns. And we always have, there's a saying in our industry that you don't wait to buy gold, you buy gold and wait. Right. So that means that, you put that umbrella up and you're waiting for the shower and the rainstorm to hit you. Now, sometimes people feel that, well, oh, you're investing in silver and gold. Well, you're a conspiracy theorist. And that's just for preppers and homesteaders.
You're a doomsday prepper. Yeah.
Now, I will tell you something. We actually have a lot of clients that are homesteaders and preppers. And people ask me, well, what's the difference between a homesteader and a prepper? And like, homesteaders are people that kind of live off the grid, live off the land, have livestock. They're more self-sustained. Preppers a little bit more extreme, where they're, maybe collecting ammo and cans of beans, right? But one thing that they both realize and they both believe in is having something tangible, and that crossover, having something tangible, is precious metals too, because they look at precious metals as a currency. And I truly believe metals is a currency. In fact, before 1964, if you pulled out your quarters, dimes, and dollars, they were 90% silver. And you can buy these silver coins still because they're 90% silver. So a pre-1964, maybe dollar isn't worth $1, it's probably worth closer to $25. So imagine that, because it had 90% of silver. So I always kind of say to my clients, silver will buy you the bread and gold will buy you the bakery. And when you're dealing with people that are more of the homestead mentality, they want some currency. They want some spendable currency, that if the wheels fall off the wagon, they have something. Does that make them doomsday preppers? Absolutely not. It actually just makes them realists and understanding that, money supply, money flow, money is pretty much going to be going away in the near future anyway, because we have these things called CBDC, central bank digital currencies. And ultimately, they're trying to lead us towards a cashless society. It's already happening. The Fed Now coin got recently launched. And funny enough, one of my clients was the architect behind the Fed Now coin, and he worked for Brinks. Brinks, the armor truck company, see them pick up money. They do a lot more than just pick up money. Actually, they also work with the Federal Reserve, and he was very high up at Brink's operations. And I had to laugh because he said, Jonathan, he goes, I'm here working on the Death Star. I'm one of the architects behind this. He goes, I know what happens next. That's why he was rolling over his IRA. So a lot of retail stores are going cashless. You know, cash is disappearing. And as an example, 7-Eleven in New York, Brink service 7-Eleven amongst many other big companies, you know, they won't be accepting cash anymore. Everything will be digital. And for him, it meant that lots of his friends will be losing jobs, unemployment, because, you know, there's not going to be money runs, money coming back to the facility. Money comes back to these Brink facilities, just so you know. And there's these monstrous money changers, industrial money changers for dollars and for coins. These things get counted, laid out, strapped, put on a pallet. These money is sent back to the central banks. Okay, all of that's going away. So he said, for his concern, first off, is unemployment. People that he knows that have been working in this industry for 20, 30 years, you know, they're being made redundant. Okay. After that, a couple of years later, he told me they're coming for our cash and we're going to head towards a cashless society. Imagine that, zeros and ones instead of dollar bills in your pocket. And the problem with that, and the sentiment here is very clear with the people I speak to, is that if you lean a certain way politically or have certain beliefs, there's someone behind the curtain that can hit that delete button, your money's gone. So now who's controlling the money?
Or you can't use it. Yeah. Or even if they didn't take it from you, they just restricted you from using it in certain ways, and all of a sudden it's not really yours.
Exactly. So it's not even a digital dollar at this point. It's a software. I don't want a software as money. I want real currency. And again, hence the appeal. People say, I want something tangible. People want to take back the control. We've lost a lot of control in this country. There's a lot of government overreach. There's a lot of big brother. You know, I speak to clients and they say, you know, we're heading to a communist country. We're like China, for crying out loud, right? So people want their freedom. They want their rights not restricted. And when people, you know, start talking about currencies and everything, the best way people take that power back is to do it for themselves. Because guess what, Alex? Central banks, countries around the world, they're buying gold for themselves. They're mass buying gold right now and storing it away. They're not going to do it for you or I. So, you know, you got to do it for yourself. And this is the importance of, you know, I teach financial literacy, especially to younger people, to realize don't just plan for the weekend, plan for your future, because, you know, the government isn't going to plan for your future or help you out. You have to do it yourself.
Yeah, it's crazy to see how things are going, man. Because even from a conversation standpoint, there might be things that were mentioned right here in this podcast that might not be okay to say out loud, that might get limited reach on certain platforms, and it just makes you wonder, right? A lot of people like to rank on the doomsday preppers, or people that, you know, people that like to think ahead, but look at history. Look back on history. It never hurt anybody to be prepared. Okay, as long as you're not hurting anybody, as long as you're not doing anybody wrong, as long as you're not interfering with people's growth and people's prosperity, you're preparing for yourself either financially, physically, your food. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And to see how things have kind of changed over the last few years, where in some aspects freedoms are taken from us, things that we're not able to do, things are just completely blocked from us being able to do. It just makes you wonder, like, how far could that go? And once it gets that far, how prepared are you? And you see a lot of that in the supply chain, the supply chain issues that happened over the last few years. We didn't perhaps think that it would have been possible, but there was a lot of issues. Specifically, think about the chip crisis. Yeah, that brought up car prices up like almost double. Some cars are even a triple, quadruple. Um, that's very serious. And then, you know, most people, because I have a lot of conversations, most people are just trying to get by, bro. They're just trying to work. They're just trying to get their paycheck. They're just trying to pay their bills, and they're not looking at these things. They're not looking at the things that we're talking about. And maybe one day, hopefully not, but maybe one day, it's like in a flip of a switch, at the snap of a finger, they run into a brick wall, and all of a sudden they realize, I've been so preoccupied this whole time with my job and with things I see on the news that maybe don't even matter, with fighting with others when I shouldn't even be fighting with them, that all of a sudden I have no money, or the money that I have is worth nothing. I don't have no understanding in financial literacy of precious metals, of gold, of silver, of how to store it. What do you recommend to the people that maybe a lot of this that we're talking about goes over their head. They don't understand gold IRAs. They don't have a lot of money to spend on gold, or to invest, or to become a doomsday prepper, or whatever you want to call it. To keep it simple, what would be a few keys of advice that you give to a newbie, to somebody starting out that wants to secure a little bit of their future or their retirement?
I'd say start small. If you don't have an IRA, then you can still purchase metals like gold and silver. Now, obviously, silver's way less expensive compared to gold. So, I have to tell people start with some silver purchases, because silver is a great commodity to hold on to. You mentioned the chips and the cars becoming more expensive. Well, if you look at silver, the industrial value for silver is growing year upon year. Industrial technological uses for silver are at an all-time high. That trend is going to continue. And they say the trend is your friend. So, look at what's happening with silver right now. Car manufacturing. We're meant to be going fully electric by 2030, right? So, do we have the infrastructure? That's a whole nother story
Yeah.
to plans out. But a lot of these components use silver. So, we're very bullish on silver. And if you, want to kind of take baby steps into the precious metals arena, just start buying some silver American Eagles, silver bars. Again, it's just kind of getting started. There's no time like today to kind of start reading up on this, researching it, and understanding why you want to hold on to it. And look, a lot of young people, what are they doing on the weekends? They're buying one too many drinks, or one too many lattes at Starbucks, so to speak. Cut back on your lattes and put a little budget aside and go into silver. If you have an IRA, a retirement account, or 401k from a previous employer, you've inherited it and it's just dragging behind you. You're opening up the statements and you're not liking what you are seeing. Well, how important is your retirement dollars for you? Don't wait on that. Start kind of putting a spotlight on this and understanding what you're invested in and what you can do to safeguard it. A lot of my clients, Alex, I say, what's inside your IRA? They say to me, well, some stocks, some bonds. I'm like, great, what stocks and bonds? And then it's just like blank. I don't
Oh
know.
my God.
And then I don't say this to make them feel bad. It's just I want to shed a light on it, because what's been happening over the years, our financial advisors throw us into these products, and because you're investing through Merrill Lynch and Charles Schwab, you're really buying the name, right? But you don't know exactly what's inside. What's the ingredients? You're eating the Twinkie. What's the Twinkie inside? What is it? It's emulsifiers.
Well, it's funny. Twinkies don't even exist anymore, right? Or do
There
they?
you go.
Well, it was one of those that got discontinued recently. One of those really sugary like snacks that's completely gone.
You know what? I bet there's a few preppers out there that have them. That's
They
why.
have a bunch of them in their basement.
Probably do. So it's about shining a light on this, right? So I don't say this to people to embarrass them. I'm just trying to make them realize, crikey, I don't know what's inside my IRA. And then when they do realize what's inside their IRA, and they're like, well, this is tied to this, and this has very high risk because of X, Y, and Z, then they realize, okay, it's like chess. They want to castle the king. They want to protect what they have. And then they start looking at other options. And one of the best options is gold and silver. I tell people, get off the freeway right now. There's a lot of traffic on there. Let's get off of this, because if there's going to be a catastrophic, crash on the freeway, we don't want to be anywhere near that. If the freeway clears up and everything, the path forward looks great, smooth driving, we get back on the freeway. But right now, this isn't the time to be stuck in congestion. It's a time to understand and really being an informed investor, because the informed investor is a better investor anyway, and start researching. Like you said earlier, the media isn't going to tell you to do this. The government isn't going to tell you to do this, but they're doing it for themselves.
Yeah.
So really understand what's happening out there. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand how the gold market works. You don't have to worry about indices and market rates, etc. It simply does what it says on the tin. It's going to protect you. It's a hedge. You want to hold on and long-term hold. This isn't something that's a make you quick rich scheme like cryptocurrencies, right? This is a mid to a long-term hold. What does that look like? 3 to 5 years. I have other clients that do this, that say, I'm leaving it in here. This is for my children. This is going to be passed on to family members. So again, gold and silver, integral part of a balanced portfolio.
So for people that have a 401k and are thinking about doing something like this, is there any penalties for moving it sideways into gold? Um, how does that work?
That's the beautiful thing about an IRA, the tax deferred. So there are no taxes, there are no penalties. You can simply move it from this side to this side, tax-free. It's still an IRA. You still get your statements. The only difference, Alex, is rather than your money being invested in all those zeros and ones that we're talking about, you have something tangible that you can hold on to that's stored safely in a depository for you. And as the world continues to unravel during this everything bubble, that you've got an asset that's holding its value, especially against inflation. If nothing else happened, at least it's worth more than the dollar that's losing value every year due to money printing, right? So you have everything stored in a tangible asset. Everything unravels. Well, we haven't talked about where gold can go, but that's not the reason why to do it. But if everything does unravel, people will be very happy that they're holding on to gold and silver.
So after 20 years, you've been in the industry 20 years, correct?
25 years now, I believe, plus.
Okay. So after quarter century in the industry, what major changes have you seen in commodity trading?
Commodity trading, I think it's very dumbed down by the media. You'll get people that say, well, gold's soft this week because the dollar became stronger. So in terms of news outlets, I think you've really got to draw a line in the sand and distinguish a couple of things here. A lot of people on the retail level, they're not trading gold. They don't care if it's up 1 week or down the next, or even 6 months if it's down. This is a medium to long-term hold. So like I mentioned to you, the foresight has to be, you don't wait to buy gold, you buy gold and wait, right? So you've got to look at everything with a 1 year, a 3 year, a 5 year. Your stocks will go up and down. And in terms of commodities tradings, breakouts or anything that's changed over the years, nothing's really changed in the fact that there's a few ways to trade or be involved in metals. Obviously, futures contracts, kind of where I started off on the London Metal Exchange, right? That's more of a industrial billion-dollar industry where people are trading contracts, and the gold that's back in these contracts never leaves the commodity house. It's just pieces of paper being traded back by large corporations and banks. And then obviously you have gold ETFs, that people that want a little bit of the appetite of the precious metals, but they don't want to own it. They'll own an electronically traded fund. Again, still traded to the market, right? You don't own entitlement to that. And obviously, gold mining stocks, there's some good gold mining stocks out there. But again, if I was going to invest in gold, I want to hold on to it. I don't want to invest in a company
The gold
mining.
itself, yeah.
100%. And again, getting back to the clear winner for me, and that is the utility of precious metals as being a currency, something you can put away as a store of value, and something you can put in an IRA. So in terms of commodity trading, how it's evolved or how it's differed over the years, it's really stood the test of time. There hasn't really been anything that kind of stands out, that to say, well, in such and such a time, something dynamic happened and it changed the whole industry. Again, gold's been around, like you mentioned at the very beginning, since the dawn of civilization, right? Empires have been built on it and have been lost on it. And it's always been throughout history. Mutual funds haven't been throughout history. There's many asset classes that haven't. I mean, gold's even mentioned in the Bible. So, I mean, in terms of a track record, nothing has a track record like gold. Does it mean you go out and sell the wife, the house, the dogs, the kids, and put it all into gold? No.
Store it away and sit on it.
Yeah, absolutely not. But again, looking at the globe, so to speak, and
historically it works.
100%.
And hasn't failed for the most part, correct? Like,
you'll never have any asset that you can hold on to is always going to have value, always.
Why do you think so many Americans lost their IRAs and 401ks recently?
Why they've lost them?
Yeah.
Well, in terms of loss could be tied to the market. So, I would say at the beginning of this year, lots of 401ks were losing value. This was secondary market 401ks, people calling us up saying they're down 10%, 30%. I even had a
Yeah.
client say they were down 40% the first quarter of this year. Again, market instability. Market instability always causes fear. And when there's fear, there's panic. Where there's panic, there's sell-offs. So anytime there's going to be mass sell-offs and your money is tied to a 401k, and don't forget, if there's a mass panic or sell-off, you can't call up your broker and say, please sell my 401k, because you can't do that. You've got to keep it tax deferred. So you just have to ride out those big speed bumps as we cover them. So even during historical events when people don't have IRAs and they have stock portfolios, try calling your broker and trying to sell a stock. I mean, even now, when we help people roll over their IRAs, we have to speak to their financial institution. And some financial institutions are much easier to work with than others. And I won't mention any names because I don't want to get a cease and desist letter from any of these brokers. But I'll tell you off air who they are. But when they go to roll over these IRAs, the clients will say to me, well, I haven't heard from my broker in over 8 months now, and I'm sick and tired of never being able to get hold of him, never getting any updates. And I tell them, well, guess what? You're going to get a call today. They're like, what do you mean? Well, you're rolling over, $1 million. They leverage your funds. That's like 10x to them. $1 million is worth like $10 million to brokerage houses because they leverage their money. That's how they make money and own all these big skyscrapers. So, when people liquidate large accounts, they call me back. You are 100% right. He called me back on the line right away. Yes, he called you back right away. If you call your financial advisor and ask them about gold, they'll probably say, don't do it. I used to be a registered financial consultant. I advised financial advisors, so I know how their minds work. When you're a financial advisor, you work under the umbrella of a broker-dealer. If you try to sell a product outside of that broker-dealer umbrella, the term they use is selling away. Selling away is very bad in the industry. You get a slap on the wrist, you're going to lose your quarterly and yearly bonuses if clients sell or sell away. So they're never going to be able to sell you gold because brokerage accounts don't offer you gold. They'll try and maybe offer you something similar, but selling away is very bad. Now, having said that, we do work with financial advisors, and a good non-biased financial advisor will recommend gold and silver to you. A good financial advisor, they work with us, they buy metals all the time, and they will recommend metals to their clients. A bad financial advisor will tell you don't do it, because for a multitude of reasons. If you gave someone advice and that advice was bad, they'll come back and say, you told me to do it and it wasn't any good. It's also the same with financial advisors. It's easier to tell them no than it is to tell them yes, but secretly chances are they're also buying gold and silver for themselves.
What a nightmare for so many people, even people that are maybe a little bit well off but aren't very financially literate in this type of thing. They go and they trust people, they trust a big name brand because somebody maybe recommended it. And
Yeah.
when it comes to this, when it comes to life insurances, most of these people are making money off commissions, and they're asking you to buy things that are going to make them money, not necessarily going to make you money or serve your best interests. It's pretty scary to not be informed in this type of thing, and it's very important to be informed in this type of thing no matter what age you are. You're 18, 19, 20 years old. I mean, look at you. Since you're 18 years old, you're kind of in the market, right? And you've been understanding this type of thing.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm nearly 48, so it kind of gives you an idea how long I've been doing this for. And you're right. So in terms of being thrown into this and trusting a brand name, that may have worked in the past, to be honest with you. When everything's good, that works. But when things aren't good, then you have to not just be thrown into things. And you mentioned it, kind of what I kind of was talking about a little bit earlier. An informed investor is a better investor. So, it's easy to open the computer, Google benefits of gold, why I want to own gold, start looking at track records, how safe is the stock market, and just getting an education, because even daily you'll see articles coming out where people are ringing the alarm bells, they're waving the red flag, and they're saying, look, what we believe is around the corner isn't good. And again, if you're tied to the market, you want to get an understanding of what's happening. You want to get an education. And people are aware, let's say they want to buy a house, they don't do it blindly, right? They do a house inspection. They want to know what's wrong with the house. Is the foundation good? Do the windows need replacing? Is the plumbing good? It should be the same with your investments. Don't just take the word of the brokerage company that you're working with that these are good. Do your own research. And like I mentioned, something I always look for: track record. Always look for a track.
What do you say to the newbie investor that listened to this and said, you know what, I like it, I want to buy some gold? Maybe I'm not going to buy a bunch of gold, maybe I'm not ready for a gold IRA and to hit up Jonathan, but I want to buy a little bit of gold. But let's say maybe they're fearful. Where do I store this gold? Where do I put it? What if somebody breaks into my house? Is there alternatives for people to be able to store their gold that are easily accessible?
Yeah, it's a great question. If you don't have an IRA, but we ship millions of dollars of gold every week to people, and people keep it in their homes. It could be 10,000, it could be a couple of million, depending on the client. So, what's people's comfort factor, right? Some people will keep it at a local bank in a safe deposit box. And then you'll have the counter argument of that from some of my other clients. I don't trust the banks. I don't want anything in a safety deposit box. Okay.
Yeah.
So what do those people do? Well, people keep metals in a gun safe at home, in a floor safe. I've even had some clients tell me they've had an old rusty paint pot, and they put their precious metals in a paint pot, and it's in their garage. So, or garage, as you say.
Yeah.
So there's definitely ways to store it, and it all comes down to a comfort level. I would generally say a lot of clients have safes. They're happy to keep it at home. When we ship metals to people, Alex, it doesn't come in a big Brinks truck with a big alarm. We're buying gold. Gold's being delivered. It comes discreet. It comes secured. It comes insured. So we deliver millions of dollars of gold across America, and it's insured up until the people sign for it. But really, we kind of help people logistically as well. If it's larger accounts, we want to make sure they have somewhere safe to keep it. If they're buying a lot of silver, we want them to know what's the weight of it, where are they going to put it. And that's kind of, you put it away. And that's not where it ends, because what we do is we give people portfolio updates every 90 to 120 days so they can see how their positions in precious metals are doing. So we can kind of see what's happening in the market, answer any questions they have, and keep them informed, because again, their brokerage houses aren't doing that.
Okay. And to start wrapping things up here, and appreciate you answering that question. For somebody to work with your company, is there a minimum amount of purchase that they need to do to be able to qualify to be a client at your firm?
Yeah, for cash purchases, it's 10,000. For an IRA, it's generally 25,000 if they're looking to roll it over. If they want more information, they can come to genesisgoldgroup.com. We have a super easy phone number to remember. It's 800-200-GOLD. Doesn't get easier than that. They can call us. There's about 25 of us here. We're here in Beverly Hills, California. So don't hold that against me. It's got the good parts of it and the bad parts too. But
I know. It's okay though. It's okay.
And we do this all day. I've been brokering precious metals for over 25 years. Everyone that works here is extremely knowledgeable, knows the markets, and more importantly, understands the products, because there are different types of products to purchase: coins and bars. I know we're wrapping things up. We didn't get a chance really to go into that, but again,
dive into it a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's all part of the education process, right? People say to me, coins or bars. Very quickly, just coins, just for your listeners, coins are considered more of an international currency. They're more liquid than bars, so they're easier to sell. Bars, as pretty as they are stacked up in your safe, they have to be what we call assayed when you sell them. So it takes time and money, because you've got to do a scratching, testing the purity of the metal. So bars aren't necessarily as liquid as coins. I tell people that whenever you're purchasing precious metals today, to be careful, because there are a lot of counterfeit coins coming out, particularly from China, where they will do bars that are 70% tungsten, 30% gold. So you want to make sure you're buying metals from a credible source too. Oh, excuse me.
I love that you just shared that, because I had no idea. I've never bought a gold bar. I bought silver. I bought gold coins, and I bought it broken down into little beads. But I had no idea about that. That's really good to know. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. You got me all choking up now, so excuse me.
It's okay. I love that timepiece. Is that a Patek?
It is a Patek, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And with gold on it, of course.
Yeah, one of my favorites, absolutely.
I love watches. I don't have pieces of that level, but I am a collector. I have Rolex, I have Cartier, I have Panerai.
See, what you notice about that, right? They hold their value. It's a store of value.
They do.
So if you ever want to,
Most of my portfolio, my watch portfolio has gone up in value ever since I bought the first piece.
absolutely, because
Yeah,
there's a huge demand for it, and there always will be, and they have a track record as well. So again, it's watches, gold. You could technically say alternative investments, right? That is still a very strong market, and just kind of if you're a watch collector, that mentally should be a light bulb to realize, yes, store of wealth. I can take these and sell them at any time because there's a market for it. Same
yeah.
with gold. Gold's just been around longer.
Are you active on socials yourself outside of like the business accounts and stuff like that?
I'm not personally, funny enough, but I've had a lot of requests to be more active. I
Yeah,
have,
dude. Like you have so much value you're bringing. There probably people go crazy for you online.
thank you. Well, on a side note, I once had a stalker on personal, a stalker online, and it just kind of, when you've got a wife and kids, it just kind of
Yeah,
completely freaked me out. So it
I've
kind
been
of
there.
steered me away. So I think I've had a lot of requests for it. So I probably will. I get a lot of contacts from the press. Associated Press just contacted me yesterday just about, there was a great news article very quickly about Costco selling gold. I don't know if you saw this, but
Yeah,
Costco started selling gold bars, and they wanted to know my input on that, what I thought. And great marketing ploy by Costco, because to
yeah,
be able to buy them, limited two per customer if you can get them, and you have to be a member. So a great way to sell memberships, right? And you have to sell $80, $120 membership in order to buy these gold bars. That's if you can even get them. Limit two per customer. And Costco's done their marketing research. Again, they're now selling more dried food, more emergency kits. Well, who does that appeal to? Preppers, homesteaders, right?
yeah.
They also purchase metal. So there's definitely a crossover. Gold is mainstream. It's always been mainstream. And it's just understanding, like I said a minute ago, if you're going to purchase it, 2 ounces isn't going to diversify your portfolio. You need to work with an actual gold broker, and you want to buy from a reputable source that works with all the mints around the world. That's what we do. We try and avoid what we call secondary market coins, which you could probably relate to, because it's like watch buying, right? You want to make sure there's no fakes in there. So secondary market coins, people have purchased a gold coin, it's been sold, it's been bought, it's been sold, it's been bought, it's been sold, then you go to buy it, right? So we want to make sure the condition of the gold is top notch. We want to make sure the purity, the finesse is there, and that's why we prefer what we call mint direct gold. These are coins and bars that come directly from the mint, as the namesake says, and they're really not touched by human hands. And if they are, they're white gloved and boxed and strapped and sent directly to the customer. That's what we prefer.
Beautiful, Jonathan. How do you want to be remembered?
How do I want to be remembered?
Yeah,
Well, uh, just as a loving father and husband, more than anything. Nothing really to do. Hopefully, I leave this place a better place. But I'm a family man, and just want to be remembered by my family and my kids. And that's business is business. Like being invested in gold, definitely a passion of mine from an early childhood, growing up handling gold coins. I wouldn't say that's going to be my legacy mark on when I've left. Oh, he changed the gold market. No, I don't think that's the case. I've definitely been an authority figure in the precious metals market, and I love talking about metals. You can probably tell I'm very passionate about it. But people to remember me, that would be very personal, and my wife and kids, and
I like your
leave.
answer. I
Yeah,
love your answer.
thank
One of my
you.
favorite that I've ever gotten, because I ask people this question a lot and you get all types of answers. They're all okay. There's no right or wrong answer, but family is very important. And what you've mentioned here throughout this conversation, the path that you chose in business, you mentioned that you had gold coins from family, so that
Yeah,
some of that was passed down. Um,
I still
uh,
have them.
you still have them. A lot of that is also planning ahead. Like you said, some of your clients buy gold, store it for their family. So
Yeah.
most of what I've understood from you here is that you're very family oriented, you're business oriented, but you think ahead, you think of the family, you think of the future, and ultimately that's the only thing that matters in this life. When things get hard, when things get tough, when we're having a bad day, when when the going gets going, our family's the one that's going to back us up, and our legacy is the one that matters. So I'm glad that you answered the question this way, and I'm extremely grateful that you spent time here with us today, man. I really appreciate it, Jonathan.
Alex, I really appreciate talking to you. It's been fun, and if I'm in Miami, I will definitely give you a ring, and hopefully we can meet up sometime.
Oh, absolutely. I have this beautiful, beautiful location that I want to bring you to. A buddy of mine, who owns pretty much an entire like little shopping mall inside this plaza on Sunny Isles Beach, and they have $100 million worth of gold, diamonds, and luxury watches. 24-hour armed security. They have art in there. It's absolutely incredible for collectors. It's called Code Jewelers. So whenever you're in Miami, either swing by or don't be afraid to hit me up. I know you would absolutely love it because I know you're into precious metals and into watches. So that'll be super cool. So check that out. Code Jewelers, CO Jewelers.
I will look forward to it, and I'll bring you a little bit of gold and silver to look at too as a present.
That's incredible. Jonathan, I appreciate you. Listen, y'all, this has been an incredible conversation. If you want to learn more about him and his business on whatever platform you're listening to, on the show notes, I'm going to link his website. Also on hustleinspireshustle.com, you'll be able to find the episode. So this is Alex Quin, Jonathan Rose, Hustle Inspires Hustle podcast. Catch you on the next episode.